Welcome to the Unit2Framework Overview, Organization and Reorganization of Human Societies 600 BCE to 600 CE. This video is organized by the AP framework, and it follows the handout that you received that looks like this. And you might want to follow along as you watch the video, and it's a good way to review the same material in the chapter that is organized in a different way. And there are three key concepts in this unit. This first one, development of cultural traditions, will focus on your cultural theme, and key concepts include codifications of existing religious traditions, development of new belief systems, the effects of belief systems on gender roles, continuities of other religious traditions, and cultural development in the arts. First, the existing religious traditions. This section focuses on developments in Judaism and Hinduism during this time period. These religions are in their own section because they began before 600 BCE, the start of this unit. First, Judaism. The monotheistic principles of this religion were set down in written texts known as the Scriptures, and the kingdom of Israel, shown here, was conquered on two occasions, by Assyria around 600 BCE and by Rome in 70 CE. This caused the Jewish people to spread around the region in a process called diaspora. During this era, the Vedas, shown here, set down the basic principles of Hinduism, including Brahma, reincarnation, and the caste system. Now for new belief systems. First, Buddhism. This was based on the teachings of Buddha, who reacted to the teachings of the Vedas. Buddhism spread throughout Asia, and on this map it is shown in green. So here is the birth of Buddhism, and you can see it spread throughout South Asia, down this way, to Southeast Asia this way, to East Asia here, and to Central Asia along here. The spread of Buddhism was partly due to support from the Mauryan Emperor Ashoka, who you learned about in Chapter 4. Next, Confucianism. Remember that Confucianism is a philosophy rather than a religion. Confucius was much more concerned with our lives on earth than the afterlife. His goal was to create social harmony, and he taught that this can be achieved if society is organized in a hierarchy and each person follows the example set by their superiors. Next, Taoism, which was partly a response to the practical side of Confucianism. It influenced Chinese culture, especially the arts, by focusing on the balance between humans and nature. Christianity was based on the core beliefs preached by Jesus of Nazareth. The religion spread throughout the Mediterranean region, especially after receiving state support from the Roman Emperor Constantine. And here, the birth of Christianity is in this part of the world, that's the Middle East. And you can see, and we'll follow this throughout our course, that it spreads along the Mediterranean all the way up into Western Europe. It spreads first to Egypt and then into parts of North Africa and down the Nile. And then it spreads through the Middle East down all the way towards southern Asia and India, and along a trade network called the Silk Roads, all the way to China. The last belief system is Greek rationalism, which was also, like Confucianism, a philosophy rather than a religion. It focused on logic and experimentation and discussed the proper relationship between rulers and subjects. Socrates, pictured here, Plato, and Aristotle were important figures in this movement. The next concept is the effects of belief systems on gender roles. First, Confucianism and filial piety. These new belief systems often extended patriarchy, as in Confucianism. The three obediences are an example of the ways in which the Confucian emphasis on respecting your elders cemented the authority of men in Chinese society. Continuities of other religious traditions. Shamanism and animism continued during this time period. In Chavin, for instance, shamans conducted rituals to connect humans to the supernatural. This picture of sculpture depicting a transformation from human to jaguar demonstrates the importance of animals in the natural world in Chavin's religion. Other cultures, such as the Bantu in Africa, followed these beliefs. Ancestor worship. Two examples of ancestor worship were found in Bantu cultures and in East Asia, particularly China. In China, the Confucian tradition fit neatly with pre-existing traditions of ancestor worship. And the last section in this main concept is cultural developments in the arts. First, literature and drama. Two literary forms were born during this time period: the Greek tragedy, such as Antigone, and the Indian epic, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, both of which you studied in your English class. Each of these reflected the cultural values of the civilization that produced them, and also served as commentary on each society. Another development is architectural styles. The classical civilizations developed their own architectural styles in India, in Greece, in Mesopotamia, and in Rome. And then finally, syncretism. When two cultures come into contact with each other, sometimes one culture adopts the other's tradition, and sometimes it blends a culture with its own to create something new. This blending is called syncretism, and an example from the classical era is seen in the Gandhara Buddhas. Gandhara is a region of northern India, and after it was conquered by Alexander the Great, Greek culture was brought there. These statues of the Buddha show an example of syncretism. They combine Indian and Greek architectural styles into a new art form. The next big concept is political in nature. It's on development of states and empires. The key concepts include the fact that these imperial societies impose unity on people, the techniques of imperial administration, social and economic features, and the causes of the decline or collapse of the empires. First, imperial societies impose unity. This section just reviews the major empires. You should know the location and dates of each, as well as basic information about them. So we have Persia, the Qin and Han dynasties, the Mauryan and Gupta empires, the Greek city-states, the Hellenistic Empire, started by Alexander the Great, the Roman Empire, Teotihuacan, which is pictured here, and the Maya city-states, which are in green here, and finally, Moche. Next, techniques of imperial administration. This section reviews methods used by empires to control their subjects. They include a centralized government, a bureaucracy, and legal systems. Chapter 4 covered this in the greatest detail in the section comparing Rome and China. You may recall that Rome focused on laws, while China focused on training bureaucrats. The graphic down here on the right is an example of a bureaucracy, and these diagrams up here on the left are meant to indicate the legal system in Rome. Other methods of imperial administration include a strong military with defenses, such as the Great Wall of China, and promoting trade by building roads and issuing currencies. And in this map on red, in the Roman Empire, are the major Roman roads that help to connect, both for communication and for economic purposes, this vast empire. And these were huge achievements, both in engineering and in political administration. Social and economic features of cities. This section is a way to review these two SPICE themes, social and economic. Key information includes the importance of cities for trade, religious unity, and as centers of political power. See the list on your review handout for examples. Our book spent the most time on Athens, and again we're focusing on the cities here. So here is Athens, which is located right here, and it was an important center of Greek civilization. Your book also focused on Rome, which is of course the center of the Roman Empire, and centered right here. Your book also focused on Alexandria, the city built by Alexander the Great, which was known for its massive harbor and library that was the center of Greek culture. And also on Teotihuacan in Mesoamerica, which is located here. Social structures are also covered, which was in Chapter 6 in your textbook. The emphasis is on hierarchies and the differences between societies, such as the emphasis on the caste system in India, shown here, and on slavery in Rome. This section ends by discussing different labor systems and the continuity throughout this time period of patriarchy. This last section focuses on major reasons empires fell. They include internal and external problems. Internal problems include environmental damage, social tensions, and economic difficulties. The section in Chapter 4 that compares Rome and China covers many of these. The Yellow Turban Rebellion in China is an example of social and economic tensions. External problems focus on outside threats. For China, that's the Xiongnu, and again in brown up here on this map is the Xiongnu Confederation, which is where the threat is coming from for the Qin and Han dynasties. And the Great Wall is shown in this map in these dotted lines here. And for Rome, the threat is from the Germanic-speaking peoples to the north. The last concept in this unit is economic in nature and focuses on new networks of communication and exchange. Key concepts include trade networks, new technologies, and other types of exchange. First, trade networks. This section of your Unit 2 overview covers major trade networks that began during this era but continued into the next one. Your textbook covers them in Chapter 8, which is the first chapter of your next unit. So some of this material here might seem unfamiliar to you, but don't worry, you'll get to it in Chapter 8. Just think of this as a preview. For now, the trade networks are the Silk Roads, which connected China to the Middle East across Central Asia, shown in these red lines on this map. The Indian Ocean Trade Network, which connected East Africa, the Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, and China in a maritime or sea-based trade. The Trans-Saharan Trade Network, linking West Africa, shown in green here on this map, to the Mediterranean, and thus the rest of the trade networks. And finally, major trade routes in the Americas. New technologies. This concept focuses on the interaction between humans and the environment theme, and talks about the fact that extended trade networks were made possible by advancements in technology, including domesticating animals. Horses, oxen, and camels were used in Afro-Eurasia, and llamas in the Americas. In this picture, we have a camel saddle, which was crucial to trade both along the Silk Roads and across the Sahara Desert. On the Indian Ocean network, advancements such as the dhow ship and lateen sail, shown here, along with knowledge of predictable monsoon winds, on this map, that is the big blue arrows here, help facilitate maritime trade. Other exchanges. Trade networks facilitate the exchange of a lot more than just economic goods, and this section reminds us of some of the significant examples of this process. First, the spread of crops to the Middle East caused the development of new irrigation systems, such as the Qanat system, which, as you can see here, is a way of tapping into water on a hill that's below the water table. So you dig a well here, and then you dig a channel underground that funnels the water to your irrigated land. In addition to this technology, disease also spread, leading to the collapse of empires such as Rome and China. Finally, the major cultural traditions changed as they spread, especially Confucianism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and Christianity. Now, a brief visual summary. This whole unit is about classical societies and how they were organized. The framework that we looked at here organizes them into 3 spice themes. For religious and cultural traditions, we looked at the classical religions and philosophies. For you, that was mostly in Chapter 5. For the development of states, we look at the major classical empires, and for you, that was mostly Chapter 4. And for networks of exchange, we have the classical trade networks, which are touched upon in chapters like 4 and 6 and 7, but again, will be looked at in more detail in Chapter 8. That's your Chapter 2 overview. Happy studying!